I like to think that my taste is pretty diverse when it comes to platformers. I go play anything, new platformers, old ones, indie developed ones, AAA titles, obscure ones, popular ones, the list goes on, but I never really played any puzzle platformers though. Not to say that I haven't gotten into both games, I played some Zelda and Uncharted, but I don't know many platformers that have puzzle elements in them, and that's where the Oddworld series comes in. So one time I was thinking about what other games I should review, then I was watching Caterpillar stream's Oddworld Soulstorm on Twitch, then something came to mind. What if I look at the entire Oddworld series? I like puzzle solving games and the Oddworld series looks genuinely fun. I decided that since I heard some pretty good things about this series, and it has a pretty good fan base behind it, I should get into these games. What I hope to do is to try to review every game in this series as of now. What I'm going to do is review both Abe's Odyssey and Exoddus, then review Munch's Odyssey and Stranger's Wrath separately, and review New and Tasty and Soulstorm together since they're just remakes of Odyssey and Exoddus. So with that out of the way, let's get into this. Now after doing some deep research, and of course by deep research I mean just going on Wikipedia, Abe's Odyssey started in development in 1995 and was originally named Soulstorm. Then it became Oddworld Inhabitants Epic 1 starring Abe, and was finally renamed as Abe's Odyssey. It was first shown in E3 in 1996, and had some positive reception, some journalists calling it the highlight of the show. The game was shown again in E3 in 1997 with a more larger scale than the first one, although that caused the developers to delay the game from May to September. There was also supposed to be a Sega Saturn version of the game, and it was announced, but it was never released. Also, there was a little drama going on behind the scenes, so apparently one of the developers was trying to sabotage the project because he didn't like what was being made. He showed the gameplay footage to his boss, and unfortunately for him, he actually loved the direction the game was going for and decided to fund it instead of shutting it down. Then finally, on September 18th, 1997, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey was finally released, with Japan getting it in October of that year. The game was a massive success, selling over 500,000 units worldwide, but over in Japan, the game was retitled as Gabe A Go-Go. Weird name, but it's not terrible. Also, for the promotional covers in Japan, the original covers had severed heads on sticks, while it was changed to just a popsicle stick in Japan because of an event that was going on around that time, but that's for a video for another time. Anyway, let's go on to this game's plot. At Rutger Farms, a large-scale meat processing plant on Oddworld, Abe is working the night shift, but then he accidentally overhears a plan that his bosses are deciphering. Since the food line is going out of business, their next plan is to use their slaves as food, and after hearing this news that he wasn't supposed to hear, he obviously couldn't say, so he had to make an escape.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
While there, Abe trips on some alarms and becomes a fugitive, managing to overcome the Glucken's security force with his legs. Abe escapes and reaches the region known as the Free Fire Zone. While looking at the sky, Abe sees a moon with the same handprint as his paw, but becomes so focused on it that he falls down a cliff and smashes his head. A shaman of the Mudokons, whom Abe calls Big Face due to the mask that he wears, while explaining that only he can save his enslaved brethren from Rutger Farms. In order to do this, Big Face states that Abe must undergo a spiritual trials in the lands of the Paramites and Scrabs, and transfers a labyrinth of abandoned temples. Upon doing so, the shaman marks Abe's hands with a scar, each representing the two species. With this power, Abe returns to Rutger Farms. This ability, Abe returns to Rutger Farms to rescue his Mudokon brethren and deactivate most of the factory's power. When the Mollusks discover this and decide to flood the entire factory with poison gas, Abe races to the boardroom to try and deactivate this. Using his power to destroy the Gluckens summoned to the plant under the pretense of an emergency board meeting. Before he can tackle the gas, Mollusks manages to capture Abe and prepares to send him into the meat grinder. So this is where this game's good and bad ending comes in. If you save at least 50 Mudokons, you get the good ending where freed slaves summon magical lightning is at Moloch, with Big Face rescuing Abe and bringing him back home to a hero's welcome. But if you didn't save all of them, you get the bad ending where Abe succumbs to his fate.
He was killing it. Did you see him? Yeah, he didn't do much. But Abe, he's one of us. He wasn't any good. He wasn't really that good. He shot us. But what do you think? He was a schmuck. Well, how about you? I don't get it. No, boss? No, guys, no.
this game is way darker than I thought it would be. But even then, I really like the darker approach that this game took. It really shows how sadistic and cruel the creatures in this universe are. It also helps given how black and gritty the atmosphere is. Usually I would save the graphics for last, but this game really did the demented aspect of this world pretty good. And the atmospheric soundtrack really helps out with that too. Alright, this game is pretty much like I said before, a puzzle platformer. You go through these levels trying to avoid slugs who chase after you while you're escaping. You have to help your friends escape too. To interact with them, you need to press Alt L1 and R1 and press any of the face buttons to say hello, follow me, and wait. Then after that, you can chant to get the bird portals open. You can also manipulate slugs to do your bidding, and you can also make them explode on command. There's also other Mudokons you can interact with in this game that give you powers to destroy bombs and mines. I really love the sounds that Abe and his friends make. It just sounds like a friendly interaction with two friends in contrast to everything else in this game, which is just harsh and unpleasant.
Follow me. Wait. Okay. Hello. Follow me. Okay.
And while I would love to rescue all of Abe's friends from the torturous cesspool that is Retro Farms, I really do, because the game does a really good job of making you connect with these guys and gives you a reason to want to rescue the guys. But I didn't do it. I know I'm kind of known as that one guy who will always be his platformers 100%, but I wasn't able to do it in this game. But there is one reason and one reason only why I didn't go for the good ending. It's so damn hard. While the structure of this game is pretty simple, you just go around and solve puzzles, I might have to classify this as one of the hardest games I've ever played on the PlayStation. One of the main reasons of this game's difficulty is how you solve the puzzles, the enemies, and Abe's limited moveset. Abe can't do shit except for jump, climb ledges, and pull levers. He can sneak up on enemies while they're sleeping, and he can also do the sprint, which is pretty helpful, but I love this animation he does to get his footing. It's a nice visual, but sometimes it causes me to overshoot a jump or die. Then there's the controls. Controls are pretty heavy and sometimes they can be delayed. Not being delayed controls can work in a game like Uncharted, but here, while they don't really hinder the experience, I always count the amount of times I die because of a mistimed jump, or just the game not reading my inputs even though I know I pressed the button at the right time. I mean, credit where credit is due. I like how this game makes you feel helpless and alone because Abe's species at the bottom of the food chain, and I have to get out some extra depth in this game, but that extra depth comes at the expense of my sanity. I want to put this game down so many times, but because of obligation for this review, and because the game isn't really that long to begin with, I kept on going. Another source of the game's difficulty is Abe's state of being. I thought it wouldn't be possible to top Crash Bandicoot as the most fragile video game character ever, but at least Crash can still defend himself and has Aqua for invisibility. Abe instantly dies from touching anything: gunfire, bottomless pits, bombs, scrabs, mines, fall damage, even bats. But instead of being able to defend yourself like literally every other platformer ever made, you have to use your brain and strategies to trick slugs into hazards and traps, and use your environment to your advantage. I like that kind of approach to gameplay. I think it gives the game its own personality than just, you're the hero, jump over there, collect the power star, and defeat the bad guy, because you need to use your wits to get yourself out of tough places to save your friends, and that's what I love about this game, the sense of defenselessness. But sometimes the game can go a little bit overboard, like I'm trying to save the other Mudokons. Yeah, I'm going back there. While I like trying to solve puzzles in this game and trying to figure out how to save my friends, it just gets really frustrating trying to figure it all out without a walkthrough, which is why I don't really bother trying to get all the Mudokons. And it's a shame too, because I really like the good ending when Abe gets saved by his friends, and that face he makes when all the Mudokons are cheering him on for saving him.
Whoa.
have to go through all of that just to witness it. And again, I would love to try and get the good ending, but it would just make the video longer to get out than it should. One day, I don't know when, but maybe I'll try to do 100% Let's Play on this game on Twitch. I know fans who know the series inside and out will find the difficulty lots of fun, but to someone who just went into the series completely blind like me, the difficulty can come off as a little bit off-putting, but that's just me though. Now, this game's puzzles are actually designed really well. They can be pretty easy or hard. They really make you think about what you're supposed to be doing, and a lot of the times, there's just satisfying feeling whenever I complete a puzzle without using a playthrough as help. But there's also those times where you're stuck on a puzzle for a long time, and when you finally figure it out, you feel like an idiot for not noticing it for the first time. This game will do that a lot. Not as much as a Zelda game, but pretty often. So with how much I've been bitching about how difficult this game is, you probably think I hate this game, which is actually the complete opposite. I actually really enjoy this game, aside from the trial and error stuff I talked about before. There's a lot of stuff to enjoy about this game. I talked about how much I love how they make you feel so sympathetic for Abe and his species, but also this game's art style is just really beautiful. Like for example, in the first level, instead of a generic happy level with trees and easy enemies, you get hit with a dark bleak factory with slugs ready to shoot you on sight, and your friends slaving away while wiping the floors. The bleak and gritty aesthetic of the factory turns into a pretty moonlight set, and then turns into calm and nice looking forest. The minimalistic music also helps with the tone that this game is trying to set. So can I recommend this game? Well, let me ask you this. Are you willing to purposely put yourself in situations that will make you so mad that you'll rip your ball hair off? Are you willing to put yourself through a game that won't pull any punches and is ready to kick you in the dick repeatedly no matter what? Then this game is for you. If you're not into that stuff, then Abe's Odyssey will probably be an annoying slot that'll feel like an eternity after you beat it. I mean, this game is hard, but it's not impossible. You can beat the game in about 3 to 4 hours, even if it is your first time. But I feel like only those hardcore gamers who love archaic design like this will really enjoy this game. Now this takes us into Odyssey's sequel, Abe's Exoddus. Now this game has been critically acclaimed as one of the best games in the series, which is amazing for a second game in the series, but you came here for my opinion, or probably just to tell me to get good at Abe's Odyssey, so I'll give you exactly that. After the unexpected success of the first Oddworld game, Sony immediately demanded a sequel to the game and was pushed to make the sequel by Christmas 1998. Abe's Exoddus was made to run on the same engine as Abe's Odyssey, and the game was completed in 9 months. 9 months of development, and people are praising this game to this day as the best Oddworld game. It's really crazy to me how quality games can still be put out with such a short development cycle. The director Lauren Lanning and some of the other developers even said that it was complete hell trying to get this game done for a 1998 holiday release. Abe's Exoddus was released on November 17, 1998, and it was really successful. It sold so many copies, had overwhelmingly positive reviews, and won tons of awards. It was even nominated for a CNT Game Center's 1999's Best Arcade Game, but it ultimately went to Rayman 2 instead. I mean, it's still valid. The game's still pretty fun and still worth playing it now. Insert part of the video where I shamelessly promote my Rayman 2 review. Anyway, the game did pretty good financially and critically, for the most part, but I'll say that for another time. So let's get into this game's story. Taking place after events of Abe's Odyssey, if you collected all 99 Mudokons, which the game assumes that you did because the game begins after the good ending, the Mudokons are celebrating their freedom and their hero Abe. However, Big Face slaps him so hard in the back of the head that he loses all consciousness. While unconscious, he receives a vision from the 3 Mudokon spirits who inform him that the Gluckons are using the Mudokon slaves to exhume the bones of their dead ancestors at the Necrum, the ancient burial grounds of the Mudokons. Upon awakening, Abe leaves for Necrum with a group of fellow Mudokons to uncover what the Gluckons are up to, and quickly discover that the burial grounds have been turned into mines, and of course they didn't know that the slaves are mining up their dead relatives, so what do? Stitch their eyes closed.
You think this is funny?
In a cosmic sort of way, yes.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby... Oh my goodness! Squidward!
Well, this game's even darker than the first. I mean, just imagine being a kid playing this game, and this was the first thing you saw. It's surprising how they managed to put this kind of stuff in these games, and will only walk away with a T rating. Anyway, after initially being separated from his friends, Abe reunites with them at a vending machine that dispenses a new drink called Soulstorm brew. Abe tries to warn them, but they drink it anyway, and become addicted to it, only to fall sick from doing so. Abe discovers that the brew is made from the bones of the Medokans and proceeds to sabotage the mines. In order to heal his sick friends, he soon finds himself forced to locate the burial vaults of the Necrom and liberate its trapped Medokan spirits. In doing so, Abe is granted the power of healing by the 3 spirits who contacted him, allowing him to heal his 6 friends, who in return help him head to the Pico Depot, a large shipment and transportation hub. Upon arriving, Abe learns that the 3 high-ranking Gluckins, General Dripic, Vice President Aslick, yes that's his actual name, and Director Flegg have sealed off the entrance of the Soulstorm brewery to prevent him from sabotaging it. To unlock access, he quickly tracks down each Gluckin and possesses them and uses them to unlock each security measures they have control of. Traveling to the brewery, Abe soon discovers that the brew not only uses Medokan bones, but also their tears, which are extracted from the slaves by machines that repeatedly electrocutes them. While safely rescuing the victims, Abe discovers the brewery can be destroyed by overloading its main boiler. Upon doing so, the ending is received upon determination by the number of Medokans the player has saved. If you save less than 150, Abe's friends gang up on him for not helping the other slaves and leave them attached to a tear extractor, causing them to be killed as a result. If 150 or more Medokans are saved, Abe succeeds in destroying the brewery and is giving a hero's welcome upon his safe return. Whereupon Abe vows to seek out the other Medokan slaves, while all of his friends open a rehab clinic for Medokans recovering from the brew, resulting in the events of Munch's Odyssey, which I will get to in another time. Yeah, this game maintains the dark humor and the charm from the last game. The FMV in this game is fantastic. They're pretty good in Abe's Odyssey here. Now that there's a lot of voice acting and more interaction with other characters, it just makes them more enjoyable, and I just have the stupidest smile when I see them. Alright, so this game is more or less the same as Odyssey, but it's not entirely the same. It has a lot of things to change up the style, but I'll get to that later. Ape control is pretty much the same, which means all the problems I had from the last game are here too, but it doesn't really bother me as much, because for the most part, this game is nowhere near as hard as Odyssey. I mean, that doesn't mean it's not difficult, but most of the difficulty comes from the enemies and not because of Abe's weak state, since Abe's more versatile with his abilities now. All of them are returning from the last game, but instead of being the same, it's all expanded and improved upon. Starve, you can possess all enemies, not just Sligs. Yeah, you can possess Paramites, Scrabs, even the Brewmasters, which expands the entire idea of possessing and makes it into a way more fun mechanic to use. The Sligs are being exactly the same and controlled in the last game, but there's new types of Sligs called the Flying Sligs, which can just throw bombs everywhere and fly. The Scrabs are personally my favorite possessions, since you can just stomp on anything that's in your way and destroy other Scrabs that's in front of you. And then there's the Gluckins. Since the Gluckins can't really do anything physically, you can take control of any guard and just make them do whatever you please. You can make them pull levers, sacrifice themselves, and make them do anything that would usually mean strategizing for Abe. There's also new types of enemies in this game called like the Greeters, who are vending machines gone wrong and now are guards trained to kill anything who steps in their path. Flurries, who don't really do anything, you can literally just walk over them and they die, but they do alert everything around you if you step anywhere near them. And then there's the Leeches, who climb on ledges and suck the life out of you when you get anywhere near them, and they're the worst enemy in the game. Like, it's crazy the amount of times I've died from these little guys. Anytime I start to get my footing around these puzzles and I'm about to get to the end, I get eaten by these little dickheads. It can still interact with other Medokans, but instead of just speaking to them, only one at a time, you have a command that can let Abe communicate with every Medokan with you.
Follow you. You follow me. Okay.
This just makes it way frustrating since you keep on guiding your friends every time. But the Medokans also have emotion this time. Because of the years of suffering and slave work, the Medokans are either a little bit pissed or just sad, which I think just adds a little bit more depth into saving these creatures. I mean, it's annoying sometimes going all the way trying to rescue them only for them to not listen to you, but it's still a pretty cool feature to add. And it's not like the game doesn't tell you which one is sad or mad. The mad Medokans usually flash red, and the sad ones usually flash blue, which saves you the pain from figuring out which of the Medokans are mad or not. But there's a way to get them to listen to you though. To get the depressed Medokans to listen to you, you have to go up to them and sympathize with their pain.
Hi. Sorry. Okay.
But don't hit the sad ones or have any casualties in front of them, or otherwise they'll just become even more depressed and try to kill themselves. For the mad ones, you have to go up to them and pat them on the back and say sorry. Next is the batshit insane ones who just run around laughing like they're in a mental institution. You just have to go up to them and just slap them in the face. Don't do it twice though, otherwise they'll get mad and try to hit you back. Then there are the last ones. They don't have any emotions, but you still have to guide them. The nightmare human dog, the blind ones, they can still hear you, but they can't see you, which means they'll just keep on walking after your first command. And if you don't command them to run or wait at the right time, they'll die, which can get really tense if you're not good with timing. Some of my favorite moments in this game is trying to solve some of these puzzles, trying to save your friends, because there were way too many close calls where you can just barely get your friends away from the hazards, or just where you're just able to crawl away from the shadows and pull a lever and just tiptoe back before the sligs ever notice you, and you just feel like a beast for doing it. Also, and I swear I'm not making this up, you can actually drink the brew, fart, and then possess your fart and make it explode at your will. Yeah, that's actually in the game. And if you're wondering why Abe doesn't get sick from drinking the brew, I actually couldn't tell you because I wasn't paying attention to that part. I think it was because he's blue, maybe. Speaking of the brew, you can also heal the Mudokons who got sick from the Soulstorm brew by just pressing the button. Alright, finally heal the sick Mudokons. Let's continue. What the fuck? So yeah, this game has 2 discs. At first I thought the other disc was going to be a harder version of the game, but no, you needed to play the other half of the game, which I can only assume was done either because of time constraints or storage problems. Since the game only had 9 months of development, and the entire game probably couldn't fit all in one disc, so I had those been split up in 2, but that's my theory though. It might be something else, I could be completely wrong, I don't know. But all I could say is, when I first saw this screen and I didn't have the disc downloaded on my emulator, I felt really stupid. Luckily, it didn't take me too long to just download it and just change the disc since I just used the save state on the moment I got to this screen. Now, this game has way more secrets than in Odyssey, and they're way more hidden than were in the last game, although they're not impossible to find. Like, I found this one by complete accident, but they are pretty hard to find though, but they're hinted at pretty easily so they don't feel cryptic. There's also this key lock which you can hit and actually unlock doors, but it can also grant you invisibility, but only for a short amount of time, so you can only get past the tricky parts undetected. Now with all the new mechanics to get used to and all the other stuff, this game can be harder than Abe's Odyssey depending on how you look at it. Since there are more tricky puzzle solving and intense platforming sections, and this game is longer than the last game. But there's one crucial thing that they added so this game is nowhere near as frustrating as Odyssey. You can quick save now. At any moment of the game, you can pause the game to make your own checkpoint after a death or if you think you're gonna f*** up. Honestly, it's because of the quick saving that I managed to get through this game a hell of a lot easier than Odyssey. It also helped that a lot of the deaths I suffered from the game are for the most part completely my fault and not because of something I wasn't able to prepare myself for, since this game's platforming doesn't get as infuriating as the last game. Now, the endings are so much better than Odyssey. The good ending makes a nice big continuous scene for Bunch's Odyssey, for as there's still Mudokons out there, but they don't know where to find them, which Abe says is the most epic way possible. Then there's the bad ending, which is way darker than the last. You get turned in by your own friends and get electrocuted so bad that you die. It's even worse that you were ratted out by your own friends just because you couldn't find all of their friends, or just because you were missing as much as 2 or 3 Mudokons. While this game did a lot compared to the first game, like I don't classify Abe's Odyssey as a bad game, but this game has so many new stuff to the formula that it just makes it an automatic improvement. The gameplay isn't as frustrating, the new mechanics are more fun, this game is so much bigger and connected, and the graphics are pretty top notch. Now I'm not talking about the pre-rendered models because they're pretty much the same from the last game, but I mean the backgrounds. Like, just look at it. Those are works of art and still are to this day. If you want to get into the Oddworld series, you start with this game. It's just way more fun and streamlined, and it's more accessible for people who want to get into the series. Don't get me wrong, Oddworld fans, I think Abe's Odyssey is a good game, but there's just so much trial and error bullshit that I can only recommend it to people who love that archaic kind of stuff, or maybe if a bunch of friends just got together and laughed at each other's suffering. But this game as a whole is just a great time, and I didn't rage quit on it the amount of times I did with Odyssey. I mean, as a game on the PlayStation game in general, I wouldn't immediately go to this, but But overall, these two are pretty good start to the franchise. Abe's Odyssey did a pretty good job on setting the standards of what to come to the series, and even though I think Exoddus is the better game out of the two, the game's still a classic for many Oddworld fans. Abe's Exoddus does so many new things with the formula, it just makes it so much fun. So I'd really recommend Abe's Exoddus, and for the prices that Odyssey goes for, you can try that game out, just as long as you have just a little bit of patience. There's also Game Boy versions of Odyssey and Exoddus, but do you really want me to talk about those? They're pretty much the same games, but on the Game Boy. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. So subscribe if you like this video, follow my Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and join my Discord server. All the links are in the description. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.